Hello, friends. Welcome to a familiar-looking studio on an Afterburner Saturday evening, afternooning. What are we calling this? It's Ryan Pinder, Mike Gould, as we are breaking down a victory for the Calgary Flames that sends them into the holiday break. And wouldn't you know it, there's Mike in a very festive sweater. Michael, how are you today?
It's funny because I think I was the only one at the studio yesterday who wasn't wearing a holiday sweater, and then I'm actually at my day job right now. I just snuck into an unused boardroom, so I wrote my little message on the whiteboard behind me.
See that? Flames win. I'm reading it properly.
Yeah, that's right. And
answers a question in the chat in the comments. Yes, they did win. 6-4 your final.
We had our ugly Christmas sweater contest today, and unfortunately, I did not win, but the Flames did win, and they scored 6 goals, which is 3 more than they usually score at maximum.
Sure is.
And they kind of ran into a rough patch at the end, but they got it done.
Yeah, if you've got any comments on the game, we'd love to see them in the YouTubes, obviously. You've got the comments. We'll be reading those as we go. We'll also be showing some highlights of the game. And they're off, Mike. They're dead for a week in terms of the schedule. They'll be able to go travel, hang out under the mistletoe, whatever the boys want to do. They've got nothing until next Saturday. And I believe coming to that Christmas break, they typically they might not even have a skate the day before. There could be a loosely organized one, but I don't believe that it's a normal practice if it is one. They've got significant time off. We'll look at that and some other storylines. But a reminder, this program is brought to you by our good pals at Bet365. It is the world's largest betting platform. Open an account with Bet365 today, and you can bet on a huge range of markets. Download that app. Use the code NATION when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Okay, so lots to unpack here. I feel like we could do 2 shows. The first show would be the first 40 minutes of this hockey game, and the second show would be the third period. They were very different, and one was a pretty dominant and thorough effort, and the other one was not, Mike. What do you make of that third period from the Flames? Because, it was clearly an inferior opponent today, and when you get up by 4, human nature is to take the foot off the pedal. So party is like, well, that happens a lot in this sport. And the other part is, fellas, don't get distracted. You're 1 period away from this week-long vacation.
Well, I was going to say, Rye, I was going to say this could actually be 3 shows because, and I think we'll get to it. One of them will be the debrief from yesterday's show. I think we need to discuss that at some point.
Sure. And if you have any questions or comments on yesterday's show, we'll address those as well.
We will. But yeah, the third period was kind of strange, wasn't it? It was. There were a myriad of factors, I think, that affected, the score and their performance. I mean, obviously, I think the first one is they were kind of undisciplined, and I kind of bit them in the behind at certain points. I still don't like how their defensemen protect their goaltender. I think the Ball-Anderson pairing of late, you see these 2, bigger guys in front of the net, and they're not doing a good enough job of protecting their goaltender, if you ask me. I thought, especially on that 4th goal against, Wolf makes the first save, and the puck just sort of gets lost there. And one of them's got to get it out of there. To an extent, they just stopped skating. They get out of it because they had built up such a good cushion, and we can discuss, all sorts of things that happened in the first 2 periods. But at the end of the day, the third period just kind of, some of it's score effects, some of it's the defense not doing what they need to, and some of it's just a lack of discipline. And ultimately, that's a bad combination.
Yeah, and it was a very, very good night for Dustin Wolf through 40 as well. He didn't get tested a lot early, but all the shots that he did get felt like grade A's or real high quality chances. Starting with 31 seconds into the game, Connor Bedard. There's other looks in tight. So he'll finish with a 4, not a 1 next in the goals against column. But hey, he's been unbelievable on home ice, and those numbers will adjust a bit, but they're still stellar. I think he's probably a top 5 netminder in the NHL on home ice this year. We can go hunt some of that data later in the program. Let's get to some of the goals as they transpired. It was a great start for the Calgary Flames. Let's watch a few of these and react. And look, it's been a theme of late. Kadri and Huberdeau together have been very good and creating a lot of offense. They both get on the score sheet here. Let's start rolling through some goals.
Yeah, I mean, not a whole lot to say. I mean, Huberdeau, that first goal, we're gonna have it up here in a second. This is a thing of beauty. I mean,
Think he had the speed to do what he did there, but he just turned on the burners. Like that's not what he's looked like for the bulk of his what would it be now, 2.5 seasons here.
yeah,
So that's a great sign for a guy that arrived in Calgary and looked quite lost in his first year under Darryl and had a really brutal first half of the season. It was last December, Mike. He had 1 point.
yeah,
I don't know if you
yeah,
remember that. It was the
I
full
do.
month. He had 1 point. And so if you go back exactly a year, I don't know how much differently it feels like it's a full 180 on what your opinion of Huberdeau would be then versus now. And he's turned himself into a goal scoring threat, which is unusual because he's always been a pass first guy. And I think when he wasn't confident, he was a guy that you would see overpassing all the time. He's taken that to the net now. This is a different looking cat.
Huberdeau is on pace for a career high in goals, which
Yeah,
is
he scored 30
wild.
on the button twice. And I think
he's on pace for 32 now.
There you
and
go.
It's crazy. Just that play that he makes down the left side there, barreling through it like kind of reminds me of the sort of play that we'd often seen in Calgary from a guy like Tyler Toffoli, a guy who just didn't have those burners necessarily, but when he got into a real rhythm of moving his feet, he could just barrel through guys. And I think that's something that Huberdeau can do effectively when he's feeling it is use his feet and use his frame to really assert himself, because when he's at his worst, Huberdeau can look a lot like, a guy like Yegor Sharangovich does right now, where he's just sort of floating on the outside. And right now, Huberdeau's not floating.
He's not peripheral at all. That's a good point.
No,
He's right in the fiber of the game, and that's good to see because, at this time last year, like, do you even notice him? And that's the exact opposite of what we're saying now. It's a great, great sign for the Calgary Flames and for Ryan.
He's the best player right now. He's their best player right now.
Yeah, and the other guys that would probably be company, like Connor Zary, I thought had another really strong game. You're noticing him all the time. God, he looks like a center, Mike. If he's a center, that changes a lot for this organization in the sense that they actually have someone under 34 that's a centerman that with some high-end skill. Yes, Rooney's a fourth-line center, sure, but the system is empty on centers. And interestingly, Sam Honzek played down the middle in the American League the other night. If he's a center, that also would be quite a coup for the Flames at the NHL level if it happens. Now that's a long way from figuring that out, but just a thought on Zary and the depth down the middle.
Yeah, that second line, if you want to call it that, of Zary and Pelche and even Sharangovich tonight, I thought looked very good.
Pelche, I thought the recall too.
Pelche has been outstanding. I mean,
the pass to set up the goal was, I guess it's Zary scores and he just like gives him this one. He's like, "That's you, Pelche." Yes, and you could see they love this kid. Like, if you've seen some of the behind the scenes videos the Flames have done in training camp, like Pelche's a very fun-loving guy that I think's a popular teammate, and you can see him making that play. It was like Zary was more excited about that pass than he was scoring the goal. I love seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, it was easy to forget watching last year, and it's a year where Pelche had his entire season derailed from the start of it with that shoulder injury, and he was never quite the same for the rest of the season because he just didn't quite have that spark, that fire that he brings with him pretty much every game he plays. I mean, what he brings is infectious. And the nice thing about Pelche right now is he's able to play with anybody. I mean, they've thrown him out for shifts with Huberdeau, and I think Huberdeau has not looked any different with Pelche on his line than he has with Marty Pospisil on his line. I think it's been a pretty seamless fit. And
look, this is a guy they almost lost for nothing. I know we started talking about Zary. We moved into Pelche here, but he was on waivers. Anyone could have had him. I think there's probably a lot of GMs, if they had scouts in the building, be like, shit, we could have had that guy for free. But again, it took injuries to Mantha and Kirkland to open up that roster spot for him. If he keeps playing like this, he's going to be a fixture in the top 9 for a long time here. So a good sign there. I've been really impressed with Zary. What have you noticed different about him down the middle versus on the wing? Like, he's still generating chances at a great rate, which is what impresses me the most. That's a hard thing to do, to go to switch to center and continue to, get the chances and shot volume that he had prior.
Yeah, he still struggles a little bit to finish, which is something that is going to come for him. And of course, he finished today, so no problems there. The thing that I am really impressed about with Zary is just the pace at which he makes plays. I find, and it's something that I've always been impressed with, is that he is very good at changing his speeds. He can enter the zone with speed and then stop up right away to, create that separation. He's always been very good at that, even going back to when he was an 18-year-old player, a 19-year-old playing in the American Hockey League.
Right.
He is just such a smart player with the puck. He's a very manipulative player with the puck on his stick, and it's something that hasn't changed for him at all, going down the middle. And sometimes when you see the added responsibility, it's just, it just kind of falls apart for you. And, with Zary, it hasn't affected him at all.
I want to continue to roll through these goals. Let's take a look at the next one, the 2-0 goal here. Sorry, I shouldn't. I think it was 2-0 at one point. Let me pull up the game sheet. Might have a little brain fog today, Mike. I don't know why. I can't think of a single reason. Nazem Kadri, as soon as Huberdeau gets his 13th, well, anything you can do, I can do better. He gets his 13th as well. Let's take a peek at we understand there's a bit of a talent deficit there. They've been at the bottom of the league. They are trying to supply, or I guess surround Bedard with talent. It's going to take time, but it was more the work ethic that was disappointing. You're like, man, like they really, if you're bad, like we're going to see San Jose on the other side. They're working. This team is not working, at least for the first 40.
Yeah. Chicago just had a total nothing for the first 40 minutes. I mean, I thought it was commendable how they tried to come back in the third. I thought Bedard, as somebody who has multiple times this year come away watching Chicago games saying, I didn't really notice much from Bedard. I thought he really came alive in the third period after
really good,
a quieter first 40. And, he looked like a really good player in the making for that Chicago team. But in the early stage of this game, I didn't think he was really that involved. And then I didn't think the team around him was that involved. And Korchinski, a guy who, they need to pan out. He's one of their high picks.
Yeah.
He's on his way, but that's just not an NHL play. And Kadri, who has tried to sort of do it all himself to a fault, I think at times this year. And we saw it sort of late in the third period on that empty net miss, where if he had a lot more time than I think he thought he did. Well, on this particular instance, he comes back into the zone and just lets it fly. And that's when Mrazek's got to have. But
Mrazek was not good tonight. Didn't like him. And it's crazy. He's like the cockroach. You can't get rid of this guy. He's still in the league. And I don't know. He's never really been that strong, but he plays a lot. And I guess if you're Chicago, it's not, you're not in your contention window anyway. So he soaks up a lot of starts, I guess. If you're buying or selling your home, we want to remind you to check in with our pal, Derek Newman. He with the Derek Newman Group with CIR Realty. Buying or selling, he does it both. So let him get to work for you. His email address is dnewman@cirrealty.ca, or give him a call right now, 403-619-6661. This is the time of year you usually have family over. Maybe it's in-laws. Maybe it's Christmas parties. Like, this place, the walls moving in here? Is this place shrinking? Is it time to move? Or maybe it's the opposite. You're an empty nester now. You're looking to downsize or figure out a different setup that way. Either way, check in with the Derek Newman Group with CIR Realty. They also offer complimentary in-house home staging consultations, whether it's your first purchase or you've done a bunch of purchases or sales. Derek will help you to achieve your goals. He's also found a couple of houses off the market before they even get there that he'll be aware of. In fact, I saw him pull that little sneaky move in Elbow Park not long ago. So give Derek a call if you're interested in buying or selling. 403-619-6661. Let Derek put his network to work for you. Let's get to the second period. It was 2-0 Flames heading into the second frame, and that's really where they blew the doors off this thing. It was the Jonathan Huberdeau penalty shot late in the first. He didn't convert on. That was a fun one. But then into the second, Chicago gets it within one. And a team that is playing well, Mike, can often immediately take the momentum right back. Chicago scored to make it 2-1, and I think it's the next shift that they get the Zary goal. I mean, it's 28 seconds later or something like that. Like, it was an impressive pushback from the Flames on the third goal.
Yeah, I mean, it's this second line that I think has been, really good together. And if Sharangovich, uses this Christmas break to sort of reset a little bit and maybe just start fresh, I like the thought of those three players staying together for a while, because on paper, they have a lot of attributes that I think mesh really well together. Pelche is kind of the energy guy. Zary's the cerebral distributor of the puck, but he can also finish. And Sharangovich is a pure shooter. I mean, to me,
great speed and a finisher, right?
Yeah, to me, that just makes all sorts of sense. And on this play, all three of them were involved. I mean, Sharangovich, I think, has the initial chance, goes off his stick. Pelche has it in front. An amazing pass by Jacob Pelche to find Connor Zary on the doorstep. I mean, just the kind of playmaking ability that, you don't really see in a lot of players who are, third line, fourth line guys, which is what a lot of people had sort of thought Pelche might be pigeonholed into becoming. I don't know, man. That's some real skill on display from number 22.
He's immediately
You did this, and I love that, and I think I love these. When you see two prospects together on a line, sometimes it just clicks. And these are guys who played together in the American League. I mean, that top line 2 years ago, it was so good. Pelche, Zary, and Phillips, and two of them now together in the NHL. I mean, they've had that chemistry before. That was an amazing line in the American League. And to see those two guys back together again, just sort of recapturing some of that, I don't think that's an accident.
Yeah, nice. Okay, let's move to the next goal. It was a power play goal for the Calgary Flames. That snapped a streak of over 30 consecutive kills for the Hawks. I did not realize they have one of the better penalty kills in the entire NHL, and that's a hell of a stretch. I think they went over a month between power play goals allowed. It was Matt Coronado that did end the streak, and I really like Coronado's game here, Mike. It's funny, they finished this homestand with 3 losses, 2 of them being in overtime, but there's a lot of positives when you zoom out and look big picture on this team. I think if you'd had expectations at the beginning of the year for Kadri, Huberdeau, and then the 3 young kids we've talked about, Zary, Pelche, and Coronado, it's like there's a lot of check marks there with those 5 players specifically.
Yeah, Coronado is just looking like a real stud in the making. I mean, this guy is just, there aren't many guys who can shoot the puck the way he does, who make it look so effortless, who have the wherewithal to sort of take that space and the time they are given and make the most of it. And we saw it on this goal by Coronado. I mean, he gets the puck in that sort of low slot area, and he pivots on his edges here just for an extra the arm of Mrazek. I mean, a lot of guys, they get that, they fire it right away. That sort of thought process from Coronado. There's somebody in the chat saying he might be a third liner if we're lucky. I think you're just a troll, because with Coronado, this is a guy who looks to me like 30 goals possible in his future in his time. He came back, and to me, he's been exceeding my expectations for him ever since. If he was looking like this from day one, I wouldn't say, 30 goals from the start of the year. I don't think that's out of the question at all.
I agree entirely. I think he's a top 6 winger that with 30 goal potential. And I mean, look, people forget, like, he's first rounder, yeah, but he was playing college hockey like 16 months ago. There's a huge leap. Like, that is a quantum leap from Harvard to the NHL, and you're already starting to see the goals pile up. It's been a pretty impressive breakout year for him. We knew the talent was there. We saw flashes of it last year, but I mean, he's not going back to the A. This guy is a fixture moving forward. And I kind of like the balance they've got in their lines right now, Mike. When you look at the veterans with Huberdeau and Kadri, that group's going well. I really like Coronado with Coleman and Backlund. And you talked about it, the kids with Sharangovich. That line's been good too. The fourth line is a fourth line, and you have Lomberg on there. Cool. But the top 9, it seems like things are balanced and working. And I wouldn't be surprised if Ryan Husky, if given the option, keeps these guys these groupings together for a while.
Yeah, it totally works for me. My concerns with the roster construction right now are all based on the defense. I think there's room to tinker that, and I think today was another reason to sort of maybe go back to the drawing board a little bit on these pairs. But in terms of the forward group, I have no complaints. I think it is, I think what we are seeing with this Flames team is, maybe a team that almost has 3 second lines, which is something that it can't be understated. That's kind of a rarity, in this league. But I don't think they have a first line, and it's something where something I'll have to address sort of through the draft and in the future, and sort of making this whole thing work however they will do it. But as of right now, with Huberdeau playing the way he is, with Kadri, playing the way he can on his better nights, and then, the Backlund line clicking, the Zary line clicking, and that fourth line looking, solid, I would say, better than we've seen from some fourth lines in the past. I think they're well set up. I really like it.
Yeah. Coronado, by the way, on pace for over 20, and this is going to be his first full NHL campaign for the haters in the comments.
Yeah, he's what, 21? Yeah, like, come
on. Okay, we'll continue with rolling through the goals here. Blake Coleman had the goal that made this look like it was going to be a laugher at the 17:51 mark of the second period. We talked about the Coleman line. This was an even strength goal. Bean and Uyghur getting the helpers. And we'll take a look at this
one. Else. I remember that one goal.
Going. That angle looks odd to me, but
I have no idea where he was going.
Place, front of the net for Coleman.
Yeah, it reminds me of that one goal that he scored in New Jersey where he had like one hand on his stick and he like lifted the puck, and like he can just do the craftiest little things within 5-10 feet of the net. And that's something where, in fairness, tapped it past Mrazek. But kind of a cool play, and he stays on track. He's not going to score 30 this year, but he's having another little nice season.
Yeah. So at that point, it was 5-1 Calgary Flames, and we thought, okay, we could probably do the post-game show now, but the third period did have some twists and turns. Chicago, it was Bertuzzi, and Mikheyev with 68 seconds left to really bring some nerves into the building for the final, 70 seconds. They also had a little bit of zone time with an empty net as well. It was probably closer than Ryan Huska would want it to be, but at the end, it's a worthy award of 2 points to the Flames against a Chicago club that just, frankly, is lacking some talent.
Well, and Coronado gets another assist on the empty net goal, too. I mean, Kadri had that one chance from, distance that he misses, and he probably had the space in front of him to take another 2 strides and get to the red line and maybe take a closer shot, but hard to complain when it pans out the way that it does. Coronado now with, I think, 18 points this season with a goal and assist here today. Multi-point game from Huberdeau as well, which is really nice to see. Sort of keeps chipping away. He's not going to maybe be a point-per-game guy this season, but he's, I don't think something like 70 points is maybe out of the question for a guy who, a lot of people saw as being on a downward slope, and for good reason. 52 points, I think, last season.
Yeah, biggest drop in NHL history from the Florida to Calgary season. This is a much better player than one we watched for most of his first 2 years here.
I mean, it's night and day. It is, even when the points aren't coming for Huberdeau right now, he's involved. And it's easy to see, like when I was watching Huberdeau the last 2 seasons, I would always think to myself, I can't even see how this guy scored 115 points. And right now, it's not like I can, necessarily say, okay, this guy's going to be at that level, but you can see how he gets involved in the game, how he is contributing when he is really feeling it. And it's quite apparent right now. And it's also making me think, this is a guy who you kind of get resigned to staying as a Flame because he has 6 more years on his contract after this one. But you can almost sort of see how a team would look at Huberdeau, a team like a Carolina or a team like a Tampa Bay or even a team like a Florida, honestly, and say, well, if that guy was our number 2 left wing, we might be able to make something really, really good happen here. So
you won the President's Trophy with him doing exactly that, right?
Well, I almost like the one that was brought up to me recently was, how would Florida look right now if Tkachuk was their number 1 left wing and Huberdeau was their number 2 left wing? Isn't that kind of an interesting thought experiment? But
I don't know how you get there, but sure.
It is completely impractical. It's just a thought experiment, right? But he is playing right now like a player who can make a difference on, I think, a good team. And for what the Flames are right now, he is doing his part. And I think they're now in, the first wild card spot, which is kind of crazy. I don't think anybody expected this.
They passed Vancouver with that points to win today. Vancouver's in action tonight. We'll take a look at that later. Want to remind you, Sober Carpenter is a proud sponsor of Afterburner. Craft beer reimagined. This year, Sober Carpenter celebrates 5 years of brewing. It's award-winning, non-alcoholic craft beer. Hoppy IPAs, rich Irish Reds. They've got the flavor without the buzz. Find Sober Carpenter at Sobeys and Loblaws or delivered straight to your door at sobercarpenter.com. Cheers to 5 years of staying true to the craft. Sober Carpenter, crafted for those who sip differently. I think it's going to be a Sober Carpenter day for me today.
Yeah, I was going to say, to those of you who don't know, Pinder was actually drinking exclusively Sober Carpenter yesterday.
Is that right? Okay.
That's
First I've been a little aware of that.
I think it was a placebo effect.
There was a lot of placebo. Holy, that was a big one. We'll get to your comments and thoughts on YouTube in a moment. We've also got a couple super chats. Why don't we dive into those, Yasmin? Sure. Our super chats are in support of the Youth Centers of Calgary, YCC. safe place for kids to go after school. They can get a warm meal, maybe do some reading, pick up an instrument, play sports. Just a really, really impressive charity in our city, allowing kids to be kids and have a safe place to go before families get back from work. Let's rip through, and was it be chronological or financial order? What do you want to do here, Jans? Let's go to the big money. We'll start with the dollar bills, y'all. All right, this is Arthas. Perfect way for the Flames to end it for the Christmas break, and Gould, that sweater looking styling. Okay, have a seat. Settle down.
I like it. I actually got 2 of them, but this one's the more colorful one.
It's you know what? I'll allow it today, Michael. Very
it's
good.
Nice.
Nice. Now, didn't you used to work at like the Flames merchandise store in the Dome?
I did. I very briefly. It was actually in the 21-22 season. I spent a few months hawking Sean Monahan jerseys because we kind of expected that he was going to be on his way out, so we were really selling as many of those as we could.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was a fun time. We had some interesting stuff. No, I don't remember any ugly Christmas sweaters at that point, but I do remember that was sort of when they were bringing the starter jackets back in, and they had a couple of really cool designs. So this one's I think limited edition, vintage stuff.
Other super chat. What do we got here? This is from RG. Mike needs to sing an Afterburner theme song. Do you remember the Christmas carols on the?
They were.
That what he's making reference to. I'm not sure. Christmas carols on the show yesterday were quite something.
Well, I did sing some German on the show yesterday.
Is that what it was? Okay, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, there was a little bit of German. I don't know about Afterburner theme songs.
I don't either. Yeah. Thank you for your money.
Boomer and Pinder and Cammy and Wilson. I don't know.
Could be worse than that. Very good.
That's.
Let's look at the schedule here. The Calgary Flames are now off for a week. Those are all the super chats we have, right? If you do want to jump in, and we'll get you right to the front of the queue when those come in. Thank you for doing that and supporting the Youth Centers of Calgary. All our proceeds go from the super chats. They now get a significant break. They might have one of the longest breaks in the NHL. There's a lot of teams playing all the way up till the 23rd, back at it as soon as the 27th in some markets. They are off for a while here, and they start on the road, a place they've struggled mightily this year, Mike. They have, since the first 3 games of the year where they scored 16 goals and went road win, home win, road win, and picking up victories in Vancouver and Edmonton in October. They've had 1 regulation road win since. Like, it's been that bad. And it was last place Nashville that they beat. It's been really, really tough for them away from home. And I know what people think of when you throw the Sharks logo up. Oh, that's a bad team. They just picked first overall. They've been a tough out for the last month or so.
The Sharks are better than the Blackhawks. I
would believe that. Yeah.
And I would say, today's game notwithstanding, I think Celebrini is currently performing a little bit better than Bedard. And so
Bedard finished with 3 points tonight, and there's a lot of getting, I don't really get it. Like, he had a great game. I just think second year in the league, and they showed the stat today. He's played 100 games in the NHL, or in his first 100. He's got 87 points. Like, that's okay. It's not a point.
It's great. Game. It's great.
Well, I just think Crosby had in his first 100. And I understand there's probably a little more scoring in the NHL now than Sid's era for his rookie year. But like, what are we talking about here? He's a great young player. Why did people think the Hawks were going to be good this year?
I think there's just
delusional.
I just think when a player is labeled generational, there's always going to be a higher standard that is set. And if you are, and it's unfair, I think, in certain instances. And I think right now is a difficult environment, a really difficult environment for a young player to come in and just sort of set the world on fire right away. And, but that's, fair or not, that is sort of the expectation when you are mentioned in the same breath as McDavid and Crosby and Lindros and Gretzky and all those sort of guys. Being very good is not the same as being generational. But I think at the same time,
is probably like, how many generational talents have we had in 10 years? Come on.
That's the thing, right? Like there are Montreal Canadiens fans who think Ivan Demidov is generational. It's just, it's overused.
And then you have McKenna in a couple of years. I mean, we're hearing great stuff about, obviously, former Flames D-man's son, Landon Dupont, kid.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, if there's one every 2 years, whether it's exceptional status, it's not generational. It's just lots of superstars. And
exactly, which is good. Don't
know how we got sidetracked. We were talking about the schedule. They'll go on the road and they come home for a pair. I believe it's Nashville, Utah, Utah, Nashville, and then they're out on the road
in Vancouver.
I think they face the Ducks as well at some point there.
Yeah.
They do
It's going to be a very interesting little schedule here, a little run, because they're playing a lot of teams that I don't think are all that different from them.
Right.
Like I think the Flames and the Sharks are actually, I think they match up a lot closer than people think, just in terms of the Flames maybe not being quite as good as their current positioning. I think the Sharks maybe being a little bit better than people sort of expected them to be. I think that's a team that's in a really good spot, San Jose. I like the Toffoli signing for them.
Yeah.
Celebrini, I mean, that's sort of on the other end of the spectrum where he's over achieving, I think, to a certain extent, where he's exceeding my expectations. I've said it a number of times on this show, is he reminds me a lot of Crosby. He just sort of has that same conscious to his game. He's amazing. I love watching him. But they've got a little bit more of a well-rounded team, so they're going to be a tough test for the Flames. Utah, I still don't know what the hell to make of them. Vancouver, I still don't know what the hell to make of them. I mean, now
just
they're
got Demko back, and now it's just okay. Can the coach coexist with the star players? That seems to be
and can the star players?
The insiders talk about the
star players coexist with themselves? That's the whole thing.
That's the Pedersen, JT Miller dynamic's an interesting one. Yeah. So that's the schedule moving forward. I imagine there's a few private jets fueled up and on a runway right now to get out of Dodge. You could spend 5 days on a beach in the tropics if you want, and I'm sure there'll be some Flames taking advantage of that. You talked about the blue line and some of the issues they're having. We got a comment from Jeff that ties in nicely, and it ties into our Alberta Blue Cross memorable moment of the week. So we'll focus our attention there. Let's start with Jeff's comment. He says, are Conroy, Huska trying to figure out who their stay-at-home D will be? Ball, Miramanov, Pahal, for the incoming puck movers in Perrick, Muse, and Bristevich. It is interesting. They don't have a lot of all-around D-men in the pipeline, so much as very, very offensively slanted ones like Perrick and Bristevich. And then on the opposite, you've got Grushnikov, who may not be a thing at the NHL level, but Solovyov. Like, you do have also some very, very well-defined third pair stay-at-home guys. What do you talk to me about the blue line?
I do think, and this sort of ties into a previous question as well, is that I do think they're sort of reaching the end of their audition phase with some of these guys. We're looking, I think you can safely say, okay, a guy like Kevin Ball is going to be here. They just re-signed Braden Pahal. He's going to be here. But for some of the other guys, like, Jake Bean, maybe it's a little early, but Miramanov, who they got last year, Hanley, who they got last year. There's, and then you can go bigger and talk about Rasmus Anderson. But I think they are constantly evaluating that because they just know they have so many guys. You mentioned incoming puck movers. They've got even more than that. Jeremy Poirier is still in the American Hockey League. Yan Kuznetsov is, I think, a better two-way guy than people give him credit for. He's still in the American Hockey League.
There's a lot of guys. That's why I didn't love Grushnikov in the Tanev deal, because there's just not a lot of ceiling there. Like, if it pans out, he could be a 6'7" that's got a lot of heart and plays physical. But like, you literally found guys like that on waivers twice. Yeah.
If Artem Grushnikov,
and you've done it with Hanley,
that's what my whole point is. Like, if Grushnikov pans out, is he Joel Hanley? Like, that's the thing, right? So
and it's like, you've already got those guys. That shouldn't be seen as a great asset because it's so readily available on waivers every single October.
Those shutdown depth D are probably the easiest asset in the league to procure when it comes down to it.
It is time for the Alberta Blue Cross Meaningful Moment of the Week, a presentation of Alberta Blue Cross. If you're planning a trip, make sure you remember to pack travel insurance from Alberta Blue Cross. When you've got Canada's most trusted travel insurance in your back pocket, you can focus on making the right kind of memories while you're away. Visit ab.bluecross.ca/travel for more information. The memorable moment of the week, exactly what we're talking about. It was the 17th of December, and look at these two smiling fellas. There's Potsdam, New York's Craig Conroy, the general manager of the Flames, and Estevan, Saskatchewan's Braden Pahal, a 2-year deal with a cap hit of $1.1875 million. It's a good piece of business for Craig Conroy, in my opinion. I always think, what's your best case? What's your worst case? This is an incredibly low-risk signing. If he's awful, you just put him in the American League. You don't take any cap hit on him. He's at a number you can entirely bury, and that's a very low outcome. He looks like a very serviceable 6'7", and he's been the immovable object on this blue line. with, the likes of Hanley, Barry, and Miramanov sort of rotating around other spots. He's been the anchor on the right side of that third pair.
He's been really good. And it was a number that was lower than I thought it would be. I mean, when I was, sort of speculating at the start of the year, I was wondering, he makes 775 right now. I didn't think it was out of the realm of possibility that they maybe tripled that number, get him close to 2 on a 2-year deal or something like that. And he ends up, quite a bit lower. He ends up just over 1. And for a player like Bahal, who, you talk about him as a 6'7", I could see him as like a 4/5 if he gets, takes a couple steps forward. I think I would rather.
Do you see the more development window for him?
Yeah, I think
his age.
What's that?
How old is he? I'm just thinking.
I think he's 25. I think, like I see Bahal, and I sort of see a lot of the similar things as one of your old favorites, Chris Russell.
I just think he's bigger, more physical. Like, God bless Chris Russell. He had the heart of a lion, but it's just, he had to put his body through so much to succeed at that size, whereas Bahal can set the tone physically.
Yeah, he's bigger. He's not bigger by much, but he is bigger. He's, I think, 6'1". He's
Russell's like 5'10". He wouldn't have
exactly
180.
Russell was thick. He was never sort of that imposing. He's more of a Joel Hanley sized guy. Chris Russell is. Paul's definitely got a little bit more. He's not necessarily the size where I would say he's a imposing menace type guy either, but he definitely has a little bit more meat on him, and then he's a little bit more of a pugilist in some respects, but he's also able to, I think, skate well with the puck, defend well when he doesn't have the puck. His underlying numbers have been pretty strong in that third pairing role, almost to the extent where, if I'm Ryan Huska, I'm almost saying, okay, maybe I do try Braden Bahal next to a guy like Mackenzie Weegar at some point. Maybe try him, and like it just makes sense.
That's the issue they're having. I think it's clear they've got 2 very good top pair defensemen. They're putting them on different pairs so they don't have all their eggs in one basket. And they really like Bahal in the third pair. But how do you surround Weegar and Anderson? Ball has been up and down, but I think, you said it the other day about Miramanov, like maybe Ball is a perfect 5. You just don't have the depth, right? And when a Ristevich or a Perrick arrive, he settles in there. I don't know, but you said it about Miramanov too. Like he's been hiding in the top 4 pretty nicely, given that he makes almost nothing. Like a buck and a quarter for a guy that can play in the top 4 is insane in the league. But then you also see him go from like top 4 minutes right to the press box. Like
there's no in between.
A lot of 6'7s, right? 5, 6, 7s.
And it's tough to judge these guys when they're playing in these roles. I mean, I don't know what Pahal can necessarily be, because he's kind of been pigeonholed as the 6 for a lot of the season. I don't know. Maybe you putting him next to Mackenzie Weegar, and he can be sort of that swing guy. My buddy actually just texted me with another good comp. I mean, we've compared Pahal to Warner before, but also to a guy like Corey Sarich, who kind of had that ability to be a swing guy from the 3rd to the 2nd if you needed him.
And then bigger minutes, but I guess that's your point. Maybe there is more for Pahal.
Yeah, so I don't know. And then at the end with Sarich, he went down quite a bit, and so I don't know. It's with Miramanov, it's the same deal. We've only seen this guy basically play that 20-minute a night grind, and is he that guy, or is he a third pairing power play specialist? That's where I would like to see the Flames maybe switch things up on defense, because I feel like their current alignment doesn't really let them do that as much. Trying guys out, switching them out as much, because you kind of have to have Anderson on the top pair, Weegar on the second pair, and then have them mentoring certain guys. And I don't know. I kind of want to see some guys fend for themselves a little bit more. I think there's maybe some room to let guys try him and sink or swim.
The other challenge is you've got 5 righties. Weegar and Anderson are both righties. You've seen Weegar play his offside almost exclusively since he's arrived here. He can play both sides. I know that was one of the reasons people were pushing for him on that 4 Nations roster, is that if he's your 7, you run into an injury, you can play either side. You just like, oh shoot, now we get 2 righties or whatever it is. I think the challenge would be, your best left shot defenseman is who?
Kevin Ball.
Yeah, and that's what. If you had one more top 4 lefty, now I think you're a lot more comfortable with how the blue line looks. But that's definitely they've done very well in the standings, despite on paper not a great blue line.
it was supposed to be their Achilles heel coming into this season. It was supposed to be something where it was going to expose them. It was going to have them just completely hamper them and leave Wolf out to dry. And I don't think that's necessarily been the case for a lot of this season. Now, I thought in the third period tonight, it was a little bit the case, but they've done a good job of sort of gelling and being better than the sum of their parts. So I just wonder if you can maybe switch a couple pieces around, but as an aggregate, they've done a good job.
Yeah. Okay, let's take, we told you about the upcoming road trip. A reminder, we're going to be back at Richmond's Pub on another Tuesday wing night. Like, yeah, I don't want you leaving for a period to go play ball hockey, some nonsense. Settle in, get some wings, have a couple barn burner blondes, and we're doing that Jan 7. That is the Tuesday against the Anaheim Ducks. It is the first look we'll have at the Ducks from a Calgary Flames perspective of the season. And I'm curious about the Ducks. I don't necessarily need to talk about them a ton, but there's some very, very, very high-end young pieces there. And there's some very enigmatic pieces as well when you talk about the likes of Trevor Zegras, who's out. And then you add two very, very, very heavy-hitting defensemen in Radko Gudas and Jacob Trouba in the last calendar year. And it's like, okay, I'm curious to see what the Ducks look like. We'll be at Richmond's. It's in the heart of Glamorgan, 3919 Richmond Road. It's right off Richmond Road and 37th Avenue there on the corner. And, of course, great food, daily specials, TVs everywhere. It is the spot if you're checking out NFL, NHL. You got a big sporting event on or maybe multiple sporting events. Make it your go-to. Also, home games, you can enter to win the monthly grand prize of a VIP trip. That is flights, hotel, tickets, and spending cash to see the Flames on the road. Pretty cool. If it's Flames game day, Coors Light, Coors Original, and Coors Seltzer on special as well. It's all at Richmond's Pub, and we'll see you there on Tuesday, January 7th, Michael.
I will be there. I will be having some more dill pickle wings. I had some at a different establishment relatively recently. Just horrible.
That's why we're at Richmond's. We're not messing around here.
Just horrible. I mean, you got to put some seasoning on them. I mean, I'm a little bit of a freak. I love the seasoning. I go crazy with it. You go to some movie theaters and they have the popcorn with the seasoning, and I just sort of dump the whole container on it. But it was a real fun experience at Richmond's the last time we went. And yes, this time I will stay for the whole thing to see the Flames play the Ducks in those god awful jerseys that they wear. They are so bad. They're better than what they wore, but they are just horrible still. I mean, they went from a 2 out of 10 to a 2.5 out of 10. Just terrible.
Let's take a peek at the night slate of games on Bet365. It is the world's largest sports betting platform. Open an account with Bet365 today, and you can bet on a huge range of markets. Download the app today. Use the code NATION when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. A couple late games tonight. Got some time to think about these if you'd like, Mikey. It is the Senators in Vancouver to take on the Canucks. Sens looking as good as they have in, what, dare I say, half decade? Like since the Carlson era, they've had a really nice December, beat the Flames in overtime the other night here. And I think they've turned the corner and should be absolutely a bubble team right to the end in terms of fighting for a playoff spot, which, I feel for that fan base. It's been pretty rough for a while, but that's an excited young core to be watching at this point. Canucks, I'm fascinated. It feels like Melrose Place over there. There's a lot of drama. That market always gets hot, and there's a lot of talent as well. They were that close to ousting the Oilers. They had, a 3-2 series lead, couldn't close it out. And then the night game, Seattle at Vegas. The Kraken had Kaapo Kakko acquired recently, and we'll see how they do in Vegas. That's a tough building to play in, hence Vegas being minus 200 there. I don't mind the Sens at plus money tonight, Mike. I don't.
Neither do I. Yeah. Were you a big Melrose Place fan, Pinder?
No. I just if you wanted to say like what would you call it, a soap opera or drama, I'd be like, that's what.
Absolutely.
That is.
Yeah.
You have a favorite character?
Me, I just remember that one Conan O'Brien appearance with Norm and Courtney Thorne-Smith. That's the best. If you want to watch a great episode of late night TV, just go Google those three names. That's the best. Courtney Thorne-Smith's the best. No, the Sens. they are really doing something here. They're finally sort of picking it up. Linus Ullmark, I mean, after a real bad start, has picked it up in a huge way.
Awesome.
We saw it in the game a couple nights ago. He was
when he left Calgary, it was 7 goals allowed in his last 7 games.
Yeah,
like, that's just ridiculous. You know, he's getting 955, 970 somewhere there. Like it's fun to play hockey when 1 out of every 20 pucks goes in, and that's it.
Well, that's the thing with the Sens right now is, you know, Ullmark's been so good, but there's some guys on that team who aren't, you know, yet in their groove. Giroux has been just okay this year. Yeah. Shane Pinto has had a terrible start to the season. He has 6 points in 24 games. But the defense is kind of finally getting there, which is kind of nice for the Sens. You know, Ullmark is a good goaltender, but he also, you know, does a little bit better when he has a good defense in front of him. And I thought an underrated pickup for the Sens this summer was Nick Jensen, getting him in the Chychrun trade. I mean, obviously you maybe don't want to give up so much for Chychrun in the first place and then turn around and trade him for Nick Jensen. But I like him a lot as a player, and that top 4 is looking a lot better than it has in the past. So yeah, I'm happy for the people of Ottawa. I used to, you know, spend a lot of time out there, and they're good folks. But when I was out there a lot, that was sort of right at the nadir. That was right after they were trading Carlson and trading all those guys, Mark Stone. And it wasn't a whole lot of fun. You know, the Canadian Tire Center was pretty empty. There was a lot of, you know, just people hanging out by Eugene Melnick's replica Barbadian bar. But not a whole lot else. And it's picking up. And when things are good in Ottawa, it's a fun city to watch hockey. And so
yeah, they got that now downtown rink. It looks like it's going to happen as well. That'll be huge for that franchise. The new owner is very level-headed, it seems. Although it's early, everyone's on best behavior when they're new in the club. Okay, let's get to some comments. We'll do that, and then we'll get everyone on their way on the Saturday as the Flames win 6-4 over a bad Chicago Blackhawks club that showed some flashes in the third period, but generally speaking, this game felt over through 40 minutes. And then in the final minute, like, okay, shoot, they're going to have to play hard here. Comments. Let's wander through some here. Yasmin, what do we got? Is the week off bad for us? Good question from KQ. Us, I imagine the Calgary Flames. No, I'm happy to take some time at Christmas. That's great. I don't think it's bad for me. There's a lot of guys playing really well right now that they might not mind if they had to suit up in tomorrow or the day after. Like if you're Jacob Pelche or Jonathan Huberdeau or Nazem Kadri, we're playing pretty well. Why don't we keep going here?
It's a double-edged sword because with Huberdeau and Pelche, like you said, they don't want to stop this. They're playing the best hockey of their Flames careers right now. But then you look at the other end with guys who are struggling. I think immediately of Yegor Sharangovich, who just, I think, needs these 6 days off in the worst way. So it's you kind of wonder because the Flames are sort of clicking right now, and you don't want to risk that, you know, going by the wayside. But at the same time, you know, you're always going to have these bumps and bruises at this time of year. There are guys on the Flames who I think are hurting a little bit. We've seen a couple of maintenance days lately. I think Marty had one, and after tonight, Marty will probably need one. We haven't really talked about Marty Pospisil at all. Being a bit of a menace against this Blackhawks team today.
Heavy hit on. I'm blanking.
It was Bedard and then Frank Nazar.
It was Nazar, the rookie that just got called up, that he absolutely clobbers. It's a clean hit. I love it. And I think it's usually a bit ridiculous when a guy can just shed his mitts coming and throw punches and get a roughing minor. And also gets 2 for receiving. Like, what are we talking about here? But that's sort of aside from the point that he was back to his physical self, where at times most of last year, it was like, if he's on the ice, the other team better have their head up or someone's going to get caught. And he's starting to look like that again. And I think that's a really big ingredient for that line with Huberdeau and Kadri. He plays at high tempo, and he plays with a lot of physicality when he's at his best.
I thought the Flames should have had a 7-minute power play after that, after Ryan Donato comes.
You can make the case, yeah.
It reminds me, this is a throwback for people. See if you're going to remember this. 2008, Tyler Sloan decks Damon Lanko, and Rennie Bork comes in and just jumps him. And the Flames come away. Calgary's own. He's a good guy. And 7-minute power play for the Washington Capitals after that. And I'm still a little steamed about that one. I was a little bit younger than I am now. But I think the Flames should have had a 7-minute power play after that because, you know, that's a clean hit. And Donato jumps right in.
Yeah.
That's, I thought the
and
hit
Marty's not willing to fight in the sense that like he's had a lot of concussion issues. Fighting is not something he's great at, but he doesn't have to fight after a clean hit. Now, if it's dirty, okay, we understand that there's a code of sorts. It's a clean hit. And I'm with you. I don't like that he gets 2 for roughing there. Like, where the hell is the roughing? He literally was trying to avoid getting punched in the face by a man with fists, right?
I agree. I thought the hit on Bedard was a little bit more questionable with the shoulder a little bit high. That was earlier, I think. But yeah, the one on Nazar I had no problems with.
And that was a heavy one that stood out for me in the sense that you're like, yep, that's vintage Pospisil. So you make a highlight reel of the season, that hit will be on there. Glad we mentioned that. Let's go back to the comments, Yasmin, and we'll send everyone on their way. Coming back from the break, please, Huska, start a line of Huberdeau, Zeri, Coronado. I'm not touching the lines right now, CeeLo. And I think, there will be times when, look, this is an offensively challenged group. It's tonight they get 6. It's the second time since the third game of the year that they've had 4 or more in regulation. Like, it's been eons since they put up this kind of an offensive total. I think games 1 and 2, they scored 6 in each. And this is the first time they've got to 6 since. So it doesn't feel like it today, but if they need to start moving lines around because things aren't working, sure. But I'm not switching anything coming out of the break all lines are firing right now.
I'd maybe touch a couple of the pairings. I'd maybe have a couple.
He's talking about the line. Yeah.
But for forward lines, no, absolutely not. And
again, if they get shut out in San Jose,
then you think about
sure. It. But they're not going to start with new lines, CeeLo, although there are some intriguing partners that potentially you could see. I know we've talked a lot about different combinations in the 4 groups that, everyone loves the idea of Huberdeau and Pelche, as maybe lazy as that is because they're both just from Quebec. But there's a lot of ways you could go. I think they absolutely stay put coming back from break. Next comment. How's Retro feeling with the hangover today? Is the shoveler upset? I do not have a Rhett update. Last I saw him, he was in this chair with no shirt, and it was in the evening.
Last I saw Rhett, he was throwing our headsets into a bucket full of, I think, vodka slimes. I don't know if you can remember any of that, Ryan. It was over. And there's a great photo of RJ. We should put it up on the show tomorrow or on Monday, because it's just RJ's making a face.
There's probably going to be some unpacking of the festivities on Monday's show. We are going to do a show on the 23rd, and then we'll duck out for our Christmas holiday. But that's kind of the plan at this point. Don't have an update from Red. Anything else, Yasmin, in there?
I think that's it.
That's it. That's all. All right. I see one more starred, but I imagine we've read it already if that's the case. Yasmin, thanks for your time this evening. Appreciate it. Mike, good to catch up as always. Yes, we're alive today. Thank you for all the comments I've received in the last 12 hours or so. So if people just the pat on the back and the nod, good show yesterday. I'm like, thank you. Yes, I hope so. Yeah.
Probably from always people fun. You asked if it was a good show. He was asking constantly after the show yesterday.
Well, you never know how they go because we're kind of it's a different show. You don't know what the vibe's going to be. You don't know who's showing up. But we didn't know we had Commodore until the moment he walked in. Yeah. And Mike Vernon only locked in the day before, and it was pretty non-committal, but he was there. They were great. And Noodles is always awesome. It was those are 3 of the bigger characters that have ever played for the Calgary Flames. We got in the room and put a bunch of booze in. So it was a ton of fun.
And yeah, me too. Wow.
I wouldn't put you in that group, Mike. You didn't play for the Flames, although you do have a personality. I don't know if it's all time. It seems solid through the early interactions we've shared, though.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
All right, back to work, Mike. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your Christmas holidays. We will have next Afterburner. I believe it might even be the In the Dome boys, as they'll be coming in for the Sharks or the Vegas Golden Knights. I can't recall which. The other, I believe, is a Cami show. So those are your next Afterburners. We will have a barn burner on Monday. And I believe I've said everything I need to say in terms of our sponsors. We thank you all for participating in Afterburner. That'd be Sober Carpenter, Alberta Blue Cross, Bet365, Richmond's, Pub in the heart of Glamorgan, don't you know? And Derek Newman of the Derek Newman Group and CIR Realty. 6-4, Flames win. They are off into the break, a week away on a winning note. They closed their homestand at 2-1-2, and they scored more than 4 goals. What a time to be alive, Mike.
What a time.
See you, buddies.